Welcome back to the Business Simple podcast. It's your host, James, and today I'm joined with Vann from Evolution Performance. Dan is someone who's recently come on board, and we were doing his onboarding the other day, and we're like, man, we really need to get you in for a podcast. I'm really excited because I haven't heard your full story yet. I've had little snippets here and there, but I feel like there'll be some cool yarns in that. But yeah, thank you for joining me on this rainy Friday.
Yeah, nothing better to do, is there?
Nothing better to do. Nothing better.
Honoured to be here.
Awesome. Hey, so I obviously know a lot about you through our conversations that we've had so far. And I'm sure that there is a group of people who are avid cricket followers and things like that who probably know quite a bit about you as well. But for the average listener, who are you? What's your story? And sort of what's taken you through to this point, which is your Evolution Performance evolution?
Yeah, cool. So I guess to start from the start, I was brought up in a small town in rural Canterbury, so Southbridge. Dan Carter was born. It's probably the only thing that's well known for.
Yeah. So
yeah, farming background initially. Moved into town probably, I think, sort of like late primary school. And then dossed around a few schools, which was an interesting experience. And then ended up at Limwood College, and always had a passion for sport. Wasn't particularly good. Like I was always okay at it, like real keen, and but I wouldn't say I was exceptionally talented in smashing rep teams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But always really passionate about it. And what happened, I think, was I went to Limwood College, which now Te Aratai didn't have much for cricket scene, but I was pretty keen on it. And my mate was playing for a club, Sumner, which was playing men's cricket, and I just wasn't getting much from the school stuff, so moved to play men's cricket as a 16-year-old, which was a good challenge. I learned very quickly to get better because I was getting smashed around and getting hit by the bowlers, and so that kind of, and I just happened. The good thing about that was the people at that club at that time were really successful cricketers and people, like they were business owners, they had good corporate jobs, they just good humans as well, so kind of got a lot of life skills from that experience. And then so played there. I'm a life member there now, so I've played there since then, so 25 years or something. And then left school and went to Teachers College. I think went to Teachers College first, so I was always into coaching. We did a bit of PE and a bit of Kiwi sport coaching there, and kind of got told that I was doing a good job. So teaching kind of just fell into that because there was a bit of a shortage for male teachers, and I thought, a good job, learn a few skills, good demand there, so it'd be pretty easy to job. Did that, and then just after I finished, graduate, I went to Canada to play for a season of cricket there, which was really cool. Cricket is really interesting there. It's not as strong, obviously, as it is here, but quite diverse. So really lots of expats and Pakistanis, Indian guys, Australian guys, English guys. It's like playing a World Cup every game.
Yeah.
And that was really good, like growing up sort of stage, like having to live by yourself. And we actually lived at the cricket club, which was in a basement under the cricket club in the middle of the forest, right by a lake. It was really cool. We had some really cool experiences there. Got to travel around the world. Did a whole bit of Europe, UK, and a bit of Europe on the way through, and then the way back. Then did teaching for probably 18 years, probably. I think around that, at Chisholm Intermediate. Stayed there the whole way through, and I really enjoyed the teaching, but it was always sports coaching was always the passion. Like every holidays, I'd end up doing like holiday programs or coaching during the holidays, and then I went to the UK at 2012, I think it was, as a player coach, and that was a bit more of a serious role. It was a big club, had to coach sort of 6 teams and all their junior teams, and plus play for their premier team. So that was a good step up. And I worked for a guy while I was there, so the job was probably, half part-time, maybe 20 hours a week or something. Yeah. And then, so I did a bit of coaching for another guy as well, a bit of relief teaching over there. And this guy was a bit of a joker. Like, he was pretty ordinary at coaching and at business. And he had a good business going. And I was like, man, if this dude can do it, I can do it. So came back to New Zealand, started Evolution Sports Coaching, which was called back then. And we just ran it as a side hustle for probably a wee bit too long, probably 7 or 8 years. And really enjoyed that. But I was burning the candle at both ends, trying to teach and then work after school, and then do admin and business and try and grow the business. So the cool thing about teaching is if you decide to move on, you've always got relieving as an easy safety net. So I could just do 2 or 3 days a week, casual work. And if I needed more, I could take more. If I needed less, I could take less. Yeah. And so started doing it a bit more seriously. And then, when the earthquakes happened, it wasn't the earthquake, it was COVID. Yeah. COVID happened. Couldn't coach anyone, couldn't teach anyone. Of course. So I was like, cool, I'll do some, I've got to use this time, might as well make the most of it. So I did some online upskilling. So I did applied sports psychology level 1 and 2 with a mental skills coach in South Africa. Yeah. So he was the Springboks mental skills coach. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, cool.
Met a bunch of international athletes we were working with online, like get up at 3 a.m. to meet them and do the course. A really good course. Like, the rand is about 10 to 1, so it cost like $300. I reckon it would be a $4,000 course here. Like, it was really good. So learnt those skills, and then I'd always had a fascination for mental skills coaching and that side of the game. And it sort of has always been around, but I don't think it's been focused on other than by elite athletes. So I kind of saw an opportunity to sort of bring that into sort of more everyday athletes and all our clients. And over lockdown, we couldn't coach physically, so we might as well do a bit of this online mental skills coaching. So we did this workshop called, I think we called it World-Class Habits for young athletes. Yeah. And that was really cool. Had some really good progress with some kids there. We did like goal setting, just around whatever we could do, because they couldn't get out and actually play sport. So we were working on like meditation. We did stuff around self-talk, how their identity, how they see themselves, how the story they tell themselves, courage tasks, stuff like that. And had a lot of success there. And then I was like, well, this should be something worth doing. So when lockdown was over, started doing a bit more of that as an actual focused thing, whereas I think before it was just part of what we did as a coach. And then I went on to Dave Woods. I've talked to you about integrated training. So he's legend in New Zealand. He coaches Israel Adesanya, Joseph Parker, all the city kickboxing guys, and lots of other people as well. But he does it differently. So I went to this workshop thinking it was going to be just for athletes. There's probably 30 people there. You're there for the weekend in Piha. And there was probably 2 or 3 athletes there, and everyone else was stressed out business people. Yeah. And then the penny kind of dropped, and I was like, oh, so these mental skills that I've learnt to teach athletes apply to everyone. And in fact, the stress of life and pressures of life is actually probably more significant than sport. Yeah. And there's a lot of people. This stuff we could teach to everyday people and high performing corporates or just parents, any teachers. Everyone's under stress and pressure. So, and what I really liked about Dave's programs though is it's not just talking about it in a classroom. We get out in nature. We take them up into the ocean. We get them in ice baths. Like, it's all really holistic and it's very practical. Yeah. And the main thing is, you teach them the skills. Like, this is stuff we teach now too as well. Teach them the skills, but you give them opportunities to practice the skills on the workshop, so they get under pressure and they actually get the chance to feel how it makes a difference and to apply them. Because what I see is usually you can talk to people about stress and pressure, you can listen to podcasts about it, but you generally just do your own habits that you've done for 35 years. Because it's what you do. Especially
once you're, and we've spoken, and a few other times we've talked about like cold water exposure and different things like that. Yeah. But when you are under really high levels of stress like that, your brain shuts down.
Yeah.
Like you are not, and so when you're
yeah.
listening to a podcast and you're in a really nice, relaxed state of mind and they're talking about stress, you're like, yeah, I could do that. You know, oh, you just control your breathing. Yeah, cool, that sounds good. I can control my breathing. And you're sort of driving home from work or whatever and you're breathing nice and slow and everything's all good. But once the heat's on and it's all go, to switch back from that, someone here calls it their monkey brain, and I like that as an expression, brain, but that almost autopilot that you get into 100%. When you're under high amounts of pressure, to consciously transfer from that back to conscious thought and then be like, okay, I'm going to slow myself down here, I'm going to think, is a skill that's really hard to learn. It takes a lot of exposure, I think, to stress before you get better at managing it naturally. So being able to speed that process up would be hugely valuable for someone.
I think the main other thing, is most people are so stressed though now that they're so normalised that being stressed is normal. So I'm not stressed because I'm just feeling normal.
Yeah.
So people are just in that. So we talked about the nervous system, that upregulated high sympathetic stage. Rather than going, oh, I'm stressed and feeling that and doing something about it and then getting back to that rest, digest, parasympathetic, they just stay up there and they just sit there all day. Maybe they'll drop down a wee bit, but it's and that's hugely exhausting mentally and physically. And then if you have that, you go into chronic stress and then you get to burnout and then you get significant health and mental issues which, can actually stop you working altogether. And shorten your lifespan. Oh, totally.
Cause huge challenges. It is something that knowing. I mean, we were laughing before about some challenges that I've got that have just popped up today, but like knowing what I think one thing that I've always thought about with business is that the people that tend to do the best in business aren't necessarily the smartest or the most prepared. It's the people that handle the most pressure with the most clarity, like that they don't have that same level of overwhelm. And I know what that chronic stress thing feels like for sure. Arguably, I've just come out of a patch where I felt quite like that. But you do just lose every bit of like cognitive function through some periods and just go into autopilot and you can do it for months and months and months on end. And it's so negative for yourself, for the people around you, for everyone, because you aren't even acting like you are.
No, and you can operate just as well the other way, where you're actually in that upregulated stress state for a long time. It's just that you will fall off the edge at the end. So obviously the idea is that we can be really self-aware, have the tools in place that we can manage it and give ourselves a chance to recover. And I think business owners, particularly, especially small business owners who don't have a lot of staff or people they can outsource stuff to, they just do everything and they just burn the candle until it burns out. And then there's no business. If you're the only guy doing all the work, then the business can't operate without you. So it's even worse, So it's tricky, but it's just something that you've got to become aware of and then have some tools in place. So you've got, and not just tools, I think it's setting aside the time. Like we all say we're busy, which we are, but I bet especially if you're overwhelmed, you end up procrastinating, doing tasks that are just self-soothing and trying to manage stress like a negative way. If you could use that time to do a bit of meditation, do a bit of breath work, go and get into nature for your lunch break and putting your phone away, you can be on top of that each day, and when you get home, you're actually present and a human, not a robot.
I've been hearing a little bit about being a robot at home over this year, and I actually went to, because I sort of see myself when I'm sliding into these states. I'm a bit more conscious of it than I used to be, and obviously that's because I'm accountable to people more regularly with like my fiance and baby and stuff like that. You got to be present. You have to, and that I think is given, but I tend to gravitate towards like cheap sources of dopamine would be the big thing that I'd notice. So it'll be like bad food, Instagram reels, even like scrolling. Even there's been periods, and it hasn't been like this year, but like gambling and stuff like that. I find really therapeutic when I'm like that. It's probably not a good thing.
No, but it's normal, right? It's that's what it is. Like it's that dopamine gives you that relief. So you're band-aiding drinking's obviously another one. It could be substances, could be anything like that, which gives you that, as you say, that short-term dopamine hit that puts the band-aid on it. but then long term it just keeps putting it off really. So yeah. So that is how most people deal with it. You know? Yeah.
And so what are the advantages, do you think, of someone that, like, is it mainly a performance thing? What do the people that manage stress properly really see compared to the people that kind of band-aid it?
Yeah, well, they'll perform better for sure, both at work and at home and just well-being wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main thing, I think, like, what's the point in, than doing all this work and making all this money or whatever you're doing if you can't actually have your well-being? Like, it's pointless, Yeah. I've heard someone say actually recently about how people actually live longer these days, but are they actually living longer or are they just dying longer? Like, the 60-something-year-olds now, there's lots that can't, move around and do much. They just sit at home and struggle because they've been, like, a lot of things are now medicated rather than actually dealt with holistically.
Yeah.
And that keeps them alive, but it doesn't actually, they're not actually able to do a lot, and that's what's the point, So I think if we can get on top of that and actually manage that stuff first, like when you're in that stress hypersympathetic nervous system state, your immune system's not working properly, your digestive system's not working properly, your reproductive system's not working properly, hence why you put on weight. Some people, if you're trying to have babies and stuff, it can make you less fertile. Like, there's all so many things that can seriously help, influence you health-wise that you could actually manage through just holistic stuff like getting in nature, getting away from your phone, breath work, getting some sauna, ice bath, anything like that, And we've all got the tools to do it. It's just getting the time to actually go, and I think this is one thing that a lot of people don't do is take the time to look after themselves. It's like, I need to get my business, my team, my family sorted. But you can't lead your team and your family and stuff unless you lead yourself. Yeah.
Agree with that completely. What is probably, and I've never really thought about it like this before. These podcasts tend to go on this way. It'll just, but if you would, let's say you were like eating a food, and the impact of the food was your fertility was dropping, you weren't sleeping, your digestion was wrecked, your immune system was wrecked, like it was having a massive negative impact on your health, you would stop eating the food. If you were taking a supplement that was doing that, you would stop. Often people are supplementing to improve all of those things, right? So they're actively running in, but someone will sit in a stress state and just accept it's the way things are for a really long period of time. And I'm definitely guilty of that. Like, I think when I started, this is probably actually right up until when we had Archie, I kind of wore the level of pressure that I could withstand like a badge of honor. I was like, I'm the guy. Like, when everything's on fire, I'm the guy people look to. I can, but that as a mentality in itself probably isn't super healthy. I've found that as I've kind of come through this quite intense period, and I'm coming out the other side, I'm infinitely more productive. And then as I feel the stress kind of creep back in, I see that productivity and the quality of my thoughts. And like, even if I'm trying to be creative or something like that, you have no hope when you're in that state. So it is interesting when you think about the fact that you do all these things to try to create the opposite of, you might be in that stress state and you might take a whole bunch of supplements to try to help your digestion or to help you sleep or to help you do that sort of stuff. But you could actually just like breathe slowly and walk around on some grass for a little bit and probably have the same impact. Yeah,
100%. And often, as you said before, like the things you're doing to band-aid the stress is adding to the stress, like like smoking, vaping, eating poor food, all those things are literally just making it worse, but it band-aids it for that short term. The good thing is now we have got these facilities, we've got the Cove, we've got O Studio, a lot of gyms, I think the IHF.
Yeah, I'm a member there.
Of course, They've got all those facilities now, so we do have them at our fingertips now, whereas they probably weren't so common. I mean, like I've started going to, on a Friday instead of doing gym stuff, because same thing, like a lot of people do like high intensity workouts or CrossFit or anything like that. That actually, it's great for you, but it's actually quite highly stressful. So someone who's already quite highly stressed and then goes and does HIIT or anything like that, just it is again adding to that. Whereas if you're in that sort of state, you're probably better off doing some sort of more passive exercise. So on a Friday now, I'll go to QE2 and have a swim and then a sauna. And the sauna's a chocker. Like, honestly, you go in there and you're side by side, which is amazing. Sometimes a bit awkward, but not ideal, but less relaxing. But it's great. There's heaps of people using it, you know. So it's definitely getting a bit more utilised. But I think the main thing is just people being aware of it and scheduling that time to actually look after themselves. And even looking out for their mates, like and if they notice them, you know, maybe pulling. Like I've started to try and, like, if I have a catch up with mates, instead of going to the pub, go to the sauna. You know, you can still have a yarn, and you're getting some health benefits, and
And you're making the whole thing better rather than worse. Whereas because as Kiwis, it's so like, we'll go for a beer. We'll go for a
one
beer.
One beer.
Which I do think when you're in the right state, every now and again is probably quite a healthy thing to do. It's just about balancing.
100%.
So let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, I'm in that spot that you're talking about right now. I know that I'm, you know, strung out and things are really hectic. What are the things that you would suggest they do to start realigning the ship and sending them down the right path?
I guess where to start would be I guess firstly just finding out, you know, where you're at. So like and it's tricky, like, I mean, the easiest way is obviously get someone external to help you, like a coach or you know, a health provider, but like we've got a stress scale where we just do this questionnaire, and you can give yourself a baseline of where you're feeling that stress. And because people, I think, often only associate stress with the mind or the body. There's you know, there's all this different systems in your body: your digestive system, your skin, your organs. There's tons. And so if you don't know where you're at and have a baseline, it's hard to kind of measure. And I think that's a good way of sort of seeing, like, oh, this is where I'm at, and if they can actually see some progress and go, oh, this is working, this is worth keep doing, because it is quite a hard thing to measure. So the first thing would definitely just be awareness of where you're at and what is it that's causing the stress, and sort of working that out. Because we don't want to, actually this is quite important, we don't want to avoid stress completely. Like, stress is not the issue, it's the way we're managing it. Because stress is, you can't grow without stress. Stress is, like, important. And the stress response itself, again, that's high sympathetic state, that upregulated state, again, that's not bad. It's just we don't want to spend heaps of time in it, you know? So, like, if you think of it from the animal kingdom, the gazelle could be, they sit in the savannah eating grass, and then a lion will come along and try and kill them. And if they survive, 10 minutes later they shake it off and they're eating grass again. You know, like, that's the ultimate regulation. Pretty hard for us. I think if we got chased by a lion, we'd be worried about the lion for the next 2 weeks. But just knowing, like, you know, what is kicking you off, what are those triggers that are creating that, and not necessarily ignoring them, but just managing them, or can I outsource some of this work, or can I hang out with some different people who aren't stressing me out, or, you know, they're just working out what those sources are. There's definitely some stuff you could probably stop doing that might be some habits. What are your habits that are causing you that stress as well? And then working out, are any of those Band-Aid habits that do give you that relief short term, are they actually making it worse, you know?
And removing those would be a good first step, right? If
totally.
you're like, I just deleted Instagram off my phone. And I was like, look, I know that I can still get access to it. I can still, but nothing really that important happens in my Instagram messages. You know, like, I'm not missing much, and I've still got Facebook Messenger, because you can have Messenger without the actual app. I've kind of just removed that. And if I really want to, like, watch something, I can go onto the internet on my phone and I can watch. But it's just way more cognitive rather than I find that. Or what I was finding, especially when I was in this real kind of tough patch, was I'd sort of open my phone to check a text, and then without even consciously thinking, 30 minutes have gone by and I'm like 100 Instagram reels, and I'm like, where did that even go? How did that happen? And you just find you're constantly reaching for it. I am quite disciplined with everything else. I like nicotine. That's probably but I've managed to I've actually got nicotine gum at the moment that I've been using, that means I'm not, like, inhaling anything, because I'm conscious of that being bad, but that and, like, those pouches a little bit, but that kind of comes and goes. I'm trying really hard to focus on food, alcohol, gambling, scrolling. Like, those are the ones that I gravitate towards in a big way. And just making sure, I mean, I've got a pretty good why at the moment across, like, I would rather be at home hanging out with Archie and Jen than I would be at the casino. So that's a pretty good reason to be at home, and there's things like that. But just trying to be conscious of it, right?
And that's what this. I mean, if you've seen the was it the social experiment, whatever. Like the screens are designed to make us do that, right? Like, I think they just said they designed the Instagram scrolling off poker machines. Just scroll till you hit the jackpot. So they're very good at that. Like they keep just putting the stuff in front of you. Oh, you find that interesting, do you? Let's send you more of that stuff. So you're not going to. It's pretty hard to stop it just by, I won't look at that, because I remember I've had times. So I went on Outward Bound when I was 21, which obviously phones weren't quite as prevalent back then, and probably not social media and stuff. But they take your phone off you for 3 weeks, and I remember thinking, man, it's going to be crazy when I get back. And then you check your phone, and like an hour later, you're like, oh, back to good. There was nothing seriously there. And then I did it again. I went on again about 8 years ago, and it was a week. This one was a business one, and the same thing. I thought, man, this is going to be I'm going to have to be backlogged, and there'll be so much stuff I've missed out. And it was like, sat in the car for an hour, got back to normal, and I was like, oh, there actually wasn't that much, and I did not miss it at all. But I did notice, like feeling like the
you
phone
reached for it, eh?
Or just feeling like the phone was like a wee vibration, even though I didn't have it in my pocket. Like that's how ingrained it is to us. So and being conscious of that stuff. There's actually there's also now apps you can get where you can minimize your phone, like turn from one to the other. Or my friends actually started selling these things called well phones, which is the same thing. They're like a brick, but they still have a good camera. So you can still get some of those cool things. But it's just, and you can get on social media sites on them, but like your one, you have to go onto the internet. So it's a difficult process, so you're probably less likely to do it.
Do you know a real good trick that I'd used for a long time that's brilliant is actually you can set up in your phone settings to make it black and white, because a lot of the way that the phone works with your psychology is like the red notifications designed and all those sorts of things. So when you remove the colors, it's way less engaging. I used to have my phone on black and white for ages, and once again, you can still take all the photos, you can still do all the things, but it's just a lot less stimulating. And that made me more conscious of what was happening. And you can set up so you just click the home button 3 times and it goes color, and then click another 3 times and it goes to black and white in settings. So there's lots of different things like that. And so that I suppose is like existing behaviors, but what about new behaviors that people could bring in? Like you've mentioned the meditating, the breath work. I think that I've done probably, it's not as many as I would have liked, because this would be over like 5 or 6 years, but there was a period of time where I meditated probably every day for 6 months, I'd say. There's the Headspace app, which is wicked. Perfect. And I think there's this kind of, super easy. And I think there's this kind of, especially as guys, this like thing around meditating where it's real hippie, but it's actually really good for you, right? And in 10 minutes a day, you can really bring yourself a lot of like mental clarity and things like that.
So I watched this comedy guy recently. He did a skit about this where, mindfulness was, back before cell phones, mindfulness wasn't a thing, right? Because if you didn't have a phone, when you're bored, you just stared out the window and looked at the rain, or stared at the seat in front of you, or you talk to another human in the fish and chip shop or whatever. And that was mindfulness. But we didn't need to think about it back then, because we didn't. It just happened. So now that's what that is. Meditation is just a chance for your brain to actually just focus on one thing. Actually, like you think about like how stimulated and busy our brains are now, like literally from wake up to sleep. And if we don't give them that opportunity just to deregulate and calm, and our focus and attention is so short these days. So I think that's one issue. I think a lot of people, as you say, there's a bit of a connotation that's a bit woo-woo. But also why? Like, what's the point in it? So, like, understanding, A, that you're not going to be perfect at it, because it's not easy, because we're not used to just focusing on one thing, like, but also how calming it is, as you said, like, giving yourself that clarity and giving yourself the chance to actually focus on one thing, your breath, maybe a couple of thoughts, and just being able to bring it back each time it gets distracted is actually, quite simple, quite difficult, but and because I think that's the biggest thing I struggle with, because I've got ADHD. And I just got really frustrated that I wasn't good at it, but it's ridiculous to think I would be good at it, like I haven't practiced it. So I think if you can remove that expectation and just enjoy the practice of it rather than the product, like the outcome will happen anyway. You're going to feel more calm. You're going to get better clarity. You're going to have more ability to control your focus and attention. And then that will obviously improve your performance in terms of, like, can you focus on a task for longer, like in the workplace or at home, or So there's heaps of benefits, but I think people just need to know why they're doing it, how to do it. The good thing is you've got those apps to make it easy. The how's probably really easy.
Yeah.
And then just setting the time, because even like I think the best time to do it, I like to do it, is just if I've had a busy day or it's I'm feeling a bit upregulated, I just do it in the car before I go to the next thing.
Oh, yeah, it's
so
good.
5 minutes, just close your eyes in a comfortable space.
Yeah.
Even better if you can be in nature or somewhere like that. But some of us don't have that opportunity. But so good. Yeah.
I struggled for sleeping for a long time with sleeping, and that was actually what I did. So it used to sort of bug me a little bit, because it would be like, sit up, and I would never be sitting. I'd always be lying down. What I kind of found with it was you can just like, the purpose of it is actually not to follow the instructions perfect. The purpose of it is the purpose of it. Like doing it is the purpose.
Just setting some time.
It is something that I should actually, to be fair, I should bring back in a big way. But I used to do it just before I went to sleep.
Yeah, nice.
And Headspace was $8 a month or something, and I just like chuck something in, and just it made a really big difference. It made a really big difference. It's reminded me of it talking about it.
Sleep's a big one, eh? Like I think that's probably thinking about it. No one thinks about the sleep, because that's the outcome that gets. If all the stress, you end up usually having poor sleep, and then that significantly affects the rest of your well-being and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it does get. Like I went to sleep at 9 p.m. the other night, because I've been trying really hard to focus on going to sleep earlier.
Yep.
Woke up at 11 and was up until 5 a.m. So I've had some really dramatic examples recently, and I'm like, why am I waking up at 11 p.m. and then staying up for 6 hours through the middle of the night, and like unable to sleep? And I'm like, there's some response somewhere that is causing this to happen, and I need to go, rather than just being like, this is annoying, I should take a sleeping pill or something. I need to be able to focus on what it is that causes it.
And that's what a lot of people do, right? It's the sleeping pill, the melatonin, or whatever. Yeah,
to be fair, I hammer melatonin at the moment, but I find it's the least negative of all the different stuff I've tried. Even like there's like, you can get like sleepy teas and stuff like that I find can be quite good too, but it's probably more the consciousness of being like, right, I'm committing this time to drinking this tea, to focusing on my sleep, helps probably more than anything else.
So if you can create a good sleep hygiene routine before bed, that's a big start. Because again, if we have, so our circadian rhythms are the thing that's probably messed up with most of us, because we've got bright light right up till bed. Our body temperature's usually too high or too low. And we just, we don't give ourselves a chance to, like, our cortisol levels are super high too. So when we get to bed, we're not in that right state, and that's usually what. And then you get what a lot of people get is, because they're struggling to sleep, they get stressed about not sleeping, anxiety about the anxiety of So it's the worry. So there is some ways of dealing with that as well. So that's another. And it's honestly, you get the sleep right, that's a huge win.
One that I found made a massive difference was I tried once again for a period breath work, that the Wim Hof one, where you almost hyperventilate and then you do the breath holds.
Upregulating,
and I'd do that 3 times, and I reckon I'd struggle to stay away for 15 minutes after that, even if I tried to.
So when would you do that?
Just before sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and once again, I know everyone talks about doing it in the first thing in the morning, and they talk about that. I would find that I'd do that just before sleep, and I'd just pass out every time. But it was just trying a whole bunch of different stuff. There's that Gary Brecker guy. I was looking at what he did, and I was lying on PMF mats and a whole bunch of stuff for a while too. And I find some of it, like, the barrier's just too high. There's so much. I want it to literally be just simple, easy. But then I find the breathwork thing hard now, because obviously Jen's there, so I'm like, I don't really want to do this hectic. So it's hard to find the time for it around that. But
have you tried box breathing?
Yes. Yeah, I've tried box breathing. I sort of like, and this probably sounds a little bit backwards because it's just before sleep, but the thing I liked about that Wim Hof one is you do this like 30 breaths or whatever, and then you do the hold, and you really push yourself to hold for as long as you can. So there's almost like it forces me to focus on like, because it's quite alarming. Like your brain's like breathe, breathe,
Yeah.
and you're ignoring it for as long as you can. I think I got up to about 3.5 minutes. Once I was doing it for a long time. Whereas with the box breathing, I'm like 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, that thing at work. I can't. It's not enough for me to focus on it. But once again, every person, and you'd find every person would have their own little things that work for them. And,
totally. Yeah, there's things like so like the sauna and ice bath can be quite effective for that because it can when you're in the ice. Have you done much ice baths? So like if you don't get because I think a lot of people don't just do an ice bath for the sake of doing an ice bath or whatever. Whereas if you're doing it for either muscle recovery or whatever, but if you're doing it for mental, usually I'll actually do it as a mental performance thing, like because for late in the afternoon I usually start getting fatigued and tired.
Yeah.
So if I ever have one midday, I'll just be on point for the next half the day. But you don't want to do that sort of stuff at night because it's upregulating. So it's like something you do either early or after something where you've got time to because you get a dopamine hit of that, right? And then sauna, same thing. Like you, because there's a lot of stuff around your body temperature too. So you want to have your body cooling and heating at the right time and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so it's heating early in the day, cooling late in the day, right?
Yeah.
I've found, because I've got a Whoop and I track all my stuff, and my Whoop really likes it when I shower before bed. If my recovery score's low, it'll prompt me to shower before bed because it's that you heat up and then you cool down. I sometimes seem to find it harder to sleep, but once I get to sleep, it tends to be a bit better. But there's so many different, and like I quite like this stuff and playing around with different things and trying different stuff, and even down to like different food and different. I find it really interesting.
I was talking with someone the other day about how, and the ice bath's a funny one, right? Because you probably get, I don't know, maybe a 2-hour benefit from it after that 2 minutes of discomfort. Whereas most things you do that are the Band-Aids are the other way around. Like a drinking session feels amazing for that first bit, and then you have a horrible day. So if that was the other way around, no one would be drinking, right? Like no one's going to do the hangover first. So it's like that, like if you can accept that for 2 minutes of slight discomfort, I'm going to have this amazing, 2 hours afterwards. Because we do love the, just that sort of easy. Whatever comes first.
Cheap, easy, fast dopamine.
I mean, that's that. Brains are set up for comfort, like, and that's it's probably not a strength, but it's definitely a weakness because, it's going to hold you back from so many things, like putting yourself out of your comfort zone, doing things that might, you might get judged or you might fail at. But if you can be aware of it and go, no, I'm fine. I can, this is worth it. Like even for example, like going for a walk. Walking my dog is like one of the best things to do. But if it's raining outside, you hear the rain on the roof, you're like, I don't want to go outside. But then the dog makes you go because the dog wants to run. You get out there and it's never as bad as you think.
I did this program called Live Hard when I was probably 23 or 24. I actually, that's a longer story, but I got to, there's like 4 blocks. There's a 75-day one and then 3 30-day ones. And the final 30-day one ends on like day 364, basically. So you do it, it's a full year. Mine ended on day 360 because I crashed my bike and broke 6 ribs, collapsed a lung and ruptured my spleen and did a week in hospital. Well, on day 26 of the final phase. What it forces you to do is you have to do like an outside workout every day is one of the things you focus on. And everyone thinks about working out twice a day as being this like crazy, over the top, you're going to hurt yourself kind of thing. But you temper it. Like it's not, you're not doing 2 HIIT sessions every day. And so you do like, sometimes my workout might be just like going for a walk or whatever, but you have to do it in the rain or you have to do it. And it's that same thing is it really changes your mentality around it. As if you're going for a run and it's raining, it becomes not that big of a deal. I kind of probably prefer running in the rain.
It's actually quite nice.
The temperature's a bit better.
Southerly in your face.
Horizontal. I had a few of those days. But it forces you to stay in that rhythm. And the amazing thing about it is you then become so conscious of your recovery because you're prioritizing that. So you wind up in a lot more saunas and ice baths. You've got to follow a diet, so you're not having these cheap foods. Like you're doing all of these different things together. The habits you create that are good are really strong, and you learn these coping mechanisms that are different to what I think you had prior, where you don't go, don't get me wrong, my brain's still hardwired this way because I don't think you ever get rid of that. But I don't immediately go, I have to do this to fix it. You don't drink when you're doing it. And so it's, as I'm stressed, I'm not drawn towards alcohol the way I used to be. I'm drawn towards going to the gym or having a sauna or doing something like that more, just because you learn those as habits. And you just have to do it enough times, you know it's a viable option. Just the challenge is, like what you said, the hard bit comes first. That's the only thing that sucks. People will not consider their future self often when they make decisions. So cool. And so what have been the things that you've really noticed? Obviously there's been quite an evolution from really sports specific stuff into what have been the things that you've noticed as you've been working with different groups of people and obviously teaching them different things over the last few years?
Well, to be honest, like I don't think I was as aware of what this was like, now when I was just thinking of sports stuff, I wasn't aware of the stress and pressure stuff. I mean, to an extent, but not so much from a well-being side of things. I was just thinking of it from the performance side of sport. So now I'm just, like, it's just a whole new, like I'm that annoying person now that's like, when I watch someone breathe, like if they're in the gym, I'm like, have you ever done breath work? Because I just know how useful it is. Like, and well, not just useful, like game changing, like, because if we, like same thing, the gym is so good for you, but if you're hyperventilating and shallow breathing the whole time, you're only getting some of the benefit. You're actually causing quite a bit of stress. I just all of a sudden now become so much more aware of how people respond to stress and stuff. But I think there's just just knowing, just seeing what people, how they react and their triggers. And the more I do these workshops, the more I learn, because I'm getting more feedback from what affects them and how they manage it and what they find useful from what we teach them and stuff. Talk me through a workshop. So what's involved? It's one day, is that right? At the moment they're one day. So we go out to Taylor's Mistake. You will usually spend the first hour sort of getting to know each other, bit of like we do like a speed dating kind of activity where they just get to know the people in the room. We do a couple of team building activities. We do some goal setting, and then that kind of just sets the day, like what their intentions are, where they are. Bit of awareness of where they're at as well for me and for them. And then we introduce a few tools. So we do a bit of breath work. We'll do stuff around self-talk. We'll do stuff around limiting beliefs, identity, how they see themselves, the story they tell themselves, etc. Give them a bit of an understanding of what pressure is and stress and pressure is, and an understanding of how to fix our bodies and our minds. And so they actually, because I think the biggest one, the easy thing, well, not an easy thing, but just knowing that stress isn't bad. Like that, because every time I ask people, like, what's your understanding of stress, they're just like, it's bad, it's overwhelming, it's, all these negative things. It's like, well, then I'll list all the activities that are stressful that are really fun and help you grow and stuff. And I'm like, I never really thought about it. Like, sauna's stressful, ice baths is stressful, working out stressful, dating stressful, like...
to find me a thing with a good outcome that isn't. Exactly.
So just change the perception around that and just going, okay, this is not the stress that's the issue, it's our habits and our way we deal with it that's actually more the issue, our lifestyles. And then in the afternoon, we really more like give them a chance to apply it. So we'll go out and do, we actually do, some of them are quite fun, some of them are sort of type 2 fun. Some of them, so like on the weekend we had a group, and it's obviously middle of winter, so it's a bit cooler. But it's the same thing, like we get them to jump in the ocean between, so the pressure is like they're trying to get them to do a really simple task, like throw a ball into a bin. If they miss, their whole team have to dunk, and then they come back and the pressure's on, they miss, the whole team goes in again, But they're all like so scared of jumping in the water that first time. Then once they're in, they're like, oh, it's not that cold. And it's actually really like they get that sort of similar cold water immersion feeling afterwards. And then quite often I'll be like, right, we're going inside. They're like, oh, can we just hang out in the water for a bit longer? All right. And then we'll do some breathwork stuff. We take them out into a nice peaceful spot where there's a bit of a cliff and you can only hear the ocean. It's nice. And so we teach them breathing mechanics, the performance breathing gears, which is just a way of like matching your breathing to your physical exertion or your stress level, which is a really nice way of like just gives you like a really practical way to apply the breathing to match whatever you're going through. And then we test it. So we usually test them doing a little physical activity, see how they respond to that, see how they breathe, see how long it takes them to recover from it. We time it. And then after we've done the mechanics, the breathing flow, and the performance breathing gears, we retest it, and they can almost always take about a minute off their recovery time.
Yeah.
And then that usually gets the light bulb going, oh, wow, this is actually quite useful. I can regulate my heart rate. I can feel better. I can actually, like, they'll do the exercise the second time around. They'll go, oh, that didn't feel as bad, like, because I could manage my breathing and I wasn't focused on how much it was hurting. And, you know, and that, what I like about that is it gives them the feeling that, oh, this is useful. So maybe it's worth practicing when they go, because the worst thing that could happen is you go to a workshop and then they just go, that was cool.
Yeah.
Forgot to do it ever again.
Yeah.
So it's giving them that,
Yeah, that breathing thing can be crazy. I have done a little bit of like kickboxing and Muay Thai and some other sports like that. And I was training in Bali with this guy. So every time I go over there, and it's hot. And so like some of the rounds we were doing, my heart rate was like high 190s. It's getting really, really up there.
Yeah.
Plus like the trips tend to be holidays. So you've like had a couple of drinks the night before. It's not a perfect combo. And they're like they have these like really crazy breath techniques. Like they're almost impossible. And kind of explain it like that. But there's this one that he got me to do where it was like breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 6, and then breathing out for 8. And then I had to wait for 4 and then breathe in for another 4. And he's like, if you do that 3 times, your heart rate will like drop. And I was looking at my whoop afterwards, and like the peaks and the amount that it was going up and down was so mental between the rounds that we were doing. And you like if you're sparring or whatever, it's the same thing. You have that minute break in the middle, and like just trying to regulate everything and like pull it down as you
can imagine how that, like in a fight, if you're a combative like that, where it's pretty stressful, people trying to choke you out or kick you or hurt you. You'll make better decisions, you'll get access to your skills, but also between rounds, by the time if you get to whatever the last round is, depending on how long the fight is, you're actually going to still be in a decent shape. Guys that aren't, they're going to be toast by then, you know? So.
And because you're wearing out based on how fast your heart rate's going, right? Like that speeds it up. So the lower you can keep it, the more energy you're going to have. You're using different energy systems, like all of those sorts of things, rather than just being up at your limit, just sitting there the whole time. It'd just be like bouncing your car off the limiter for 15 minutes. It's not,
No, it's like, as same thing as I said to you before, like the breathwork side of things, I've only sort of upskilled in the last 2 years. And now I'm just like, everyone should be doing this. Like I'm teaching kids at school, like if I'm ever teaching, like especially kids, like if they're having like a bit of a moment, like getting to breathe, and they're pretty, kids generally are a little bit better at it because they haven't been breathing. Because what happens, from what I've gathered, is people are born with quite good breathing mechanics, but then they go to school and they sit a lot. You just adapt, and it's easier to breathe through your mouth, shallow, and it's just a kind of lazy way to breathe, and that becomes your normal pattern. And then if you get to our age and it's like, oh, that's just what I do, and then you're under a bit of pressure or you're actually fatigued, it's not a very effective way to manage the situation you're in. So, and it's reasonably easy to fix, but it takes a lot of awareness, a little bit of practice each day, and the benefits I've seen myself and for people that we work with is incredible, you know. So it's I wish we got taught earlier, and it seems to be more popular now, which is great. So
and more accepted. Like I said, there's that whole like meditation thing. And when I first started meditating, people look at me like I was nuts when I was telling them. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And they're like, there's no way you're like at home. And I'm like, nah, seriously, you need to listen to me on this. But I've gone on this. So I was like breathing through my mouth. It was how I
think most people do that.
I tape my mouth shut when I sleep now, and wear one of those things that expands my nostrils, because like they were bad before, but then like between all the fighting stuff and it just doesn't. They just don't work sometimes. So I found with that, and like just like it forces you to really prioritize. I had quite a blocked nose, especially through that real stress period when my immune system was hammered. It was like, I need to fix this, because it's like, but I feel so much more relaxed breathing through my nose than I do breathing through my mouth. And I
totally.
notice it. And if I like forget to tap my mouth or I fall asleep or whatever, I wake up the next day, it feels like I haven't even slept. Once you're used to
like
it.
a hangover sleep.
It's crazy. It honestly is. You like wake up and you're like, God, why do I feel like that? Like what becomes normal, you realize wasn't normal. That was the good sleep. And like what was normal previously was not good. And like it's on the more extreme end of doing things, but it's pretty easy. Like just get a bit of strapping tape and cut it and just chuck it over your mouth, and you just go to sleep. And you know, I'll notice sometimes I'll like my body must like fight it while I'm sleeping, and I'll manage to like break the tape off. But that hasn't happened for quite a while since I would have been doing that for probably a year now, I'd say. And the difference is huge. It even changes your face shape.
Yeah.
Like that's how dramatic it is. Is people who breathe through their mouths, their jaws sit closer to their neck, and
that's where the snoring starts, right? Because what happens there is when you're in that mouth breathing, you're not giving your brain, like your brain's in that minor stress response because it's like you're breathing shallow and fast. That means things aren't good. So then you won't end up going into the like later sleep cycles. You'll just be in that shallow sleep. So that's why you don't feel as good.
Yeah.
So if you don't get that rapid eye movement in that dream state, like a lot of people don't think dream anymore because they're just such shallow sleepers.
Yeah.
You do have to be a little bit careful. Some people can't do the mouth taping thing, so you got to be a little bit careful. Like it works for some, but you got to be a little bit careful just doing it initially, getting used to it because it can be a bit of issues if you've got sleep apnea and stuff like that.
Yeah, it would have taken me a month before I could do it. And when I first started trying to do it, I could probably only fall asleep with it maybe 1 out of 3 nights, I'd say. And the other nights, I'd just get so anxious because I wasn't getting enough air in and I could feel it. And so I just wound up having to take it off to sleep. But I just pushed and pushed and pushed. And then I found the nose strips. That made a bit of a difference for me because that just helps get the air in a little bit more. But I just was like really keen to give it a proper crack and stick with it. And like I said, it would have been a month. And then now I'm at a point where like, if I'm breathing through my mouth, I struggle to sleep. It's like the flip. Cool. But it does take a long time.
It does. It's patting you done for a while.
Exactly. And then you get into a rhythm and you're like, this is now normal, not the alternate. I still am not at a point where if I don't have my mouth taped shut, I'll just breathe through my nose. Whereas like Jen just breathes through her nose.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And she's like never breathed through, like it's just
She never got taught, really? It's just naturally does
she just breathes through her
That's
nose.
cool.
Yeah. And I'm like, it doesn't even make sense. I'm like, how did and so she doesn't even think about it. Whereas like, I think for the average person, you're just hardwired to breathe through your mouth now.
Well, I don't think it's hardwired, but I think it's through so much bad habit, it's become that. It just takes longer to unwire. Or rewire probably. Yeah.
And so, are those bad habits? Are they the way that you're like sitting? Are they like what are the different things?
So your thoracic mobility can affect your breathing. And most people don't have great thoracic mobility, especially if they're relatively inactive. They're sitting a lot. If working at a desk all day, then you're going to be slouchy. So that's like the more that happens, the more you're just going to go to that lazy sleeping pattern. Breathing pattern. So definitely.
Cool. And then I suppose probably another thing to talk about is maybe the cold water exposure and some stuff around that would be cool.
So I used to be the guy that would go into like the river or the lake or the beach and be like up to my waist and be like, oh yeah, I'll go in a minute. Like hated it, and that's another limiting belief. Like you can. I don't like cold water, and I have heaps of people say that on the workshops. Like, I don't want to do the cold water part or the ice bath, whatever. But it's just the thought of it. Your brain catastrophizes that stuff. Like it's like we did the water on Taylor's, and then we did the ice bars, and there was quite a bit of ice in the bars, and most people are like, it actually wasn't that much colder than the ocean. Like it's just because it's got a bit of ice in it, and this thought that it'll be freezing. But now that I've done it a few times, I kind of got forced into it by going to those workshops and going, oh, there's actually a really good benefit here. Like, it really puts a dimmer on my ADHD. Like, it makes me sharp, really sharp focus-wise, makes me feel better, makes me more relaxed, and you get that good, nice, slow-release dopamine hit rather than a fast one. And then, obviously, the main thing I think is just giving that the regulation of your nervous system. So you have to use it. That's where we teach those breathing gears. So when you get in there, you're gonna, even if you're an elite, if it's pretty cold, you're gonna hyperventilate to a point initially, and then you'll slowly go, oh, it's all right, it's just cold water. I'll just breathe a little bit slower, a little bit more through my nose, and then you should be able to get to sort of, comfortable nose breathing within sort of 20 or 30 seconds. And then almost everyone finds that last minute quite nice.
Yeah. How long are they in there for?
We usually do 2 minutes. Yeah. And you can do probably up to 5, and then after that it just becomes you getting cold, and it's probably a little bit unuseful. But if there's lots of theories about how much to do, but if it's a wee bit, like if it's not as cold, you could probably do a bit longer to get the benefit. But if it's really cold, like 2 minutes is heaps.
I find 2 minutes that sweet spot. As a part of that live hard thing I was talking about, there was a 30-day block where I had to have a 5-minute cold shower every day. And for that, I actually found the easiest way to get through it was that Wim Hof breathing. So I'd do 30 fast breaths and then a hold, 30 fast breaths and a hold, and I'd usually be through about 5 minutes by that point. Sometimes it would go off on the second one. And that just allowed me to I sort of felt like I was in a little bit more control. If you sit there and just grind it out, it's pretty hard.
Totally. And the cold showers can be quite hard because you have to walk into the water, right? Like you can easily just walk away. Whereas if you're in a ice bath, you're in it and you can kind of sit still and you can kind of be a bit more calm. So I find it's a great way of introducing it.
Your skin kind of just almost numbs out at a point when you're in the bath. Whereas in the shower, you don't get the same thing because it's
moving
constantly,
water.
Moving water hurts. Cool.
I actually did, the first time I did it, it was over lockdown. I was like, I'm going to do some cold showers. And I was like preparing myself. I was like, I didn't know much about breathwork then, but I was like, I'll slow my breathing down a little bit. And then I turned it the wrong way, just scalded myself. That wasn't fun.
Not good. It is fun. I've had so many of those random. I even had it the other morning where I turned it, because I do it most mornings. I'll try to just, and it might only be for a minute or something, but it just, what I tend to find is, especially if I've had a morning that hasn't been perfect, I use it as like a re-anchoring kind of point. I'm like, okay, if I can just turn the shower cold and then get out of it, my days now, I've changed the trajectory. I've taken a win.
Done something hard.
And I might have got up a couple of times with arch or whatever, or I've done, I don't really feel like doing anything today. That kind of helps me find stable ground again. But I've had the other day I turned it cold and then I was like, face that cold, and then you can't even remember, and it can be interesting.
Once you've done it once, you won't do it again.
You'll make sure conscious of it. For sure. Cool. I suppose probably the only other thing I'm wondering is there any other sort of closing thoughts or any other ideas or anything you've got for let's say someone is really stuck in that stress state? I know you mentioned getting out of nature, controlling their breathing or learning about that, meditating. Are there any other things that kind of come to mind? Not using the Band-Aid solutions?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of mindset and mental skills stuff that you could do as well. So just understanding, I think for a lot of people, expectations are a huge thing. Am I, especially if you're a role of responsibility, am I making enough money for the business, or am I doing enough to get this going, or there's a lot of uncertainty of the economy and those sort of things that are external noise that you can start removing. So getting to understand that stuff, and you can obviously work on that sort of stuff. Self-talk, how the story you tell yourself, a lot of people, I think, especially I think a lot of men feel like they need to be the provider and they need to do all this stuff, and just working out what is it you actually need to do and what is it actually good for you, and understanding that. Identity stuff, so understanding, I think a lot of business owners attach their success of the business to their identity. Same with sports people, if they're not winning in sport, they're not winning in their wellness, and they start having, their well-being falls apart a wee bit. So it's if your business isn't going well, or if it's just having a moment or a bit of a tough time, you're still a father, a friend, a uncle and auntie, or whatever, So it's just having that, separating the two, because it's important. It's important that it's good that it's important to you, but it shouldn't be the be all and end all. So I mean, they're probably the main things, is just working out how your brain works and what helps it, getting some clarity around what's like as you've talked about earlier, like clarity around just anything would make your brain work better.
Yeah. I've found it huge, and I spoke about this on a couple of podcasts back, but just the mentality of like pressure is a privilege, and just that in itself makes such a big difference. When you just go, okay, things are hard, but they should be, and like there's that real cool Jocko Willing quote, and he's like, just that idea if something goes wrong and your internal response is just good, rather than like, oh no, what am I gonna do?
Fear of failure,
and like just by being like, I do this. This is who I am. I'm supposed to be doing this stuff. It's all good. I've got it. I've been here before. I'll be here again. This is just a part of what I'm going through. Takes so much of the stress away from it. And when you're not freaking out, you handle it better. So it goes away faster, and then you go, like, it just makes the whole thing so much easier.
Yeah, I've had some athletes that I've heard talk on podcasts about how they've actually like been given tasks where they expected to fail, or like it's like, I'm going to try and do stuff and like so I'll give you an example. I had this client who's he was a student at Chisnellwood, and incredible athlete, like one of the best I've ever come across. He was a baseball softballer for New Zealand at 13. Played golf and got to scratch in a couple of years. Played cricket as like a bit of a laugh, and was the best kid I've ever coached in cricket, even though he's not a cricketer. Could play touch, could just do anything. And I talked to he was actually on my podcast a wee while ago, and I talked to his dad about there's a video on YouTube of him throwing in nappies like most adults, like just throwing strikes, like he's a gun. But I was like, well, this kid's super talented, like, how'd you manage that? And he said, well, his role when he was as a parent, when he was a teenager, was like try to find stuff that he would just suck at. Like, just I've got to find this kid some adversity, because he's going to get to the major leagues. Well, he has done. He's in Division 1, triple. What do they call it? I can't remember what they call it. The one below the major league, anyway. And he's getting paid big dollars, and he's got a lot of pressure on him now. He's not going to have. Everything's not going to go perfectly once he gets to that point, And he'll find a point where, at the moment where he's at, there's no one who's in his same realm, and then he'll find a point where he's around 40 people who are all just as good as him, and that would be so challenging to get your head around. It might take him 2 or 3 years to get to the major leagues, whereas in every other team he's walked into the team, So that was an interesting point. Like, he actually bought. This is how dedicated he was. So he'd get to. His dad would get home, and he'd be sitting in the driveway with a baseball and a bat and balls, and just saying, right, we're going to the park every 2 hours every day for like his whole teenage life. And his dad bought his son a PlayStation for Christmas, and the son was like, what am I going to do with this? I haven't got time for this. He's like, I'm giving you this because we need to train less. Most kids these days it's the other way. He's like, please just relax and play some video games.
Wow.
But his mindset was just like, I knew this kid needs to, whereas I think a lot of parents these days,
they remove adversity.
They're like,
that's the whole purpose.
He missed out on the team. Why did he miss out on the team? You're like, no, it's fine. He missed out on the team. That's okay. Let's learn from that. And it may have been unjust. Like, sometimes you do think I remember at Chisnellwood, we had 800 kids that are all the same age. They're all trialling for the cricket team or rugby team. You're going to miss a few. And you'd have parents coming in, like, I don't mind parents coming in and questioning or asking polite questions, but some would come in and just be coming for you, And I was just like, well, why don't you just deal with it? Like, no, you didn't make the team. Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes you're not good enough. Like, it's okay. Let's learn from that, Whereas, I think these days it is the other way around. We're trying to wrap them in cotton wool, and we don't want to fail. Like, that's going to be too hard.
Doesn't help you, eh?
No.
Doesn't help you. It doesn't do you any good long term, not knowing, because that adversity is coming, like what you said. Like, at some point in time in your life, you're going to face it. And if you're the person who can go, cool, I'm game, when it comes, you're going to find it so much easier to handle.
I think our comfort zones have got smaller and smaller these days for young people.
For sure. Cool. What a great episode.
It's been good.
Is there any closing notes? Anything else you wanted to talk about while you're
here? I would just say, probably just make sure that you are like looking after yourself, like putting yourself, like, I think, like, I sometimes personally I can go this way too, like putting yourself first, like being selfish isn't a bad thing. Like, you need to do that sometimes to be successful, to be the parent, the business owner, the friend, Because if you're not looking after yourself, you're going to be a shell of yourself, and then you can't provide and help and be that person. So I'd just be saying, just don't feel bad about looking after yourself.
Yeah, right.
So, I think we don't do it enough.
And temper that by if there's someone else around you who's a shell of themselves,
100%.
make sure they're looking after themselves as well, right? Like, encouraging that rather than being like, take a night off, go sit on the couch and eat chocolate. Be like, hey, why don't you go do
meet
something?
at the sauna.
Meet at the sauna.
Sauna date.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Cool. Hey, if someone's listened to this, they like what they're hearing, that sort of thing, and they want to keep up with you or check out any of your workshops or anything like that, how would they find you?
Yeah, Evolution Performance on all the social media, so Instagram, Facebook, TikTok even.
Yeah, nice.
Our website's still actually Evolution Sports, just because it hasn't changed. But we're on all those. We've also got the podcast, Thrive Under Pressure podcast.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Hey, well, I know you've done a few of these, but thanks heaps for taking the time.
Right.
That was wicked. That flew by. If you've listened this far, thank you very much. Make sure you check out Dan across all those platforms. Follow us on Spotify or subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're consuming this, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.